Mine's going.
Any slides or PowerPoint or nothing?
I will. I'll
Mine's
have
going.
PowerPoint up there.
Alright, you got your setup
Where are
time.
we supposed to sit?
Yeah, I'll get you guys kind of set up here.
He's gotta get his stuff and set up and log in. And
Yeah, I'm gonna get you all set up around the table so at least you got something to fall asleep on. And then while you're doing that, I'll get logged in. And then we'll get going. So it's gotta be about 90 minutes to 2 hours.
90 minutes to 2 hours?
I know, Kaylee, but I gotta get this crap done. I'm sorry.
Okay, I've got an idea. So we take a picture of us sitting here.
And then y'all just take it
We
off.
cut it as a sticker, and then we paste that over you just giving a presentation.
I would love that. Seriously, it would be awesome if I could do it. I think Jeff's got the
Dude, I
editing
feel like you can do
capabilities.
it. No, it won't be that bad.
I don't think I could give it to our presentation and nobody. I think he kinda needs us.
I don't know. I gave one last night to nobody.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was that one?
It was pretty good, if I say so myself.
Okay.
We gotta figure out how to pan my mom
that?
card into the video.
2 hour class and nobody was just sit there talking to them.
Well, that's how I study when we're, I teach classes with my dogs.
Oh,
That's how I study.
that's me right there.
I've heard
It
of
says
preachers like
I'm
preaching
being
to the
set
house and stuff.
Yeah.
Sit down.
I'm getting a lot of classroom interaction from my dogs.
What y'all think?
Right?
Well, I say that to my dog.
I can take care of her children for you.
Maybe you know the cameras are recording for Brady's presentation.
Would.
Maybe you don't, but they're going, so.
Oh.
It's recording, just go around.
It's recording.
Yeah.
Are we just starting?
You're setting up, this is your setup time.
Okay, start
Just
over.
wanna make sure. Yeah. Are you guys good? Okay. Welcome class. Let me get a second to set everything up and then we'll do introductions and all that. I am correct in that you have a little bit of rope experience. Some of you, yeah, good, good deal.
Random grader hit you up.
This is called a chevron.
That's a nice idea.
Chevron is a really good way to do
Chevron.
it.
Better than Chevron.
Tell her to the class started. On the rap look.
Or just walked into a bar. Bartender said, hey, wipe along the face. How's that one?
Where's Rod at? He's missing the setup.
Yeah, you guys are supposed to be.
Guess me and Cat Weeks are the only ones that care about Brady's presentation.
That's right. So they care about presentations.
I'm just, more disappointed. Pretty self-controlled.
This thing's dirty.
Very famous one, by the way.
They were until my wife went to start the car and then it started.
Whoa.
It's like a classic, well, I'm at work, something like that.
You know, my wife is a big joke. Your wife?
I didn't have the car seats.
That's easy. They should be experts at small.
Oh, so I don't know. That's a possibility though.
You guys get a drink, get drinks or snacks, whatever you guys need, as long as it's not distracting. And at any time, if you guys need something to drink or go to the bathroom, you guys can go ahead and head over there while it's getting set up. We've got exits over here and over there and back there. And then we have restroom facilities towards the back of the building. So if you go right around the hallway and then take another right, before you go further and take a left, you will find those. Oh my goodness. specialist with Springfield, and so I have a little bit of background in ropes and knots, which is what we're going to teach you today. Before we get started, thank you weren't in here, so we'll go ahead and say it again. We got exits over here, at the back. If you need to go to the bathroom, you need to get a drink. We're going to take a couple breaks throughout the class today too, but if you need to get up and get a drink, that's fine. Don't even need to raise your hand, just go do that. We're going to go, like I said, over ropes and knots
Tu
chapters.
entends le bruit des voitures?
We're going to go over ropes and knots chapter 7. We're going to go over a few different skills. At the end of the class, we'll have you demonstrate 3 skills and then take a written test and then be done. It's going to be pretty painless today. So I'm correct in saying some of you have some rope experience, a little bit, decent. Okay, that'll help with our skills today. Trying to make sure it's not too boring for you. But we've got chapter 7, which are ropes and knots. A few different learning objectives today. First one being determining the difference between life safety and utility rope. With Springfield, a lot of life safety rope is not going to be at every station, but you're going to have it at 1s, 2s, 4s, and station 11 and 8s. But then we'll talk about the difference in the life safety and utility. So the uses for your life safety rope are going to be for our emergency and rescue operations, raising and lowering and supporting victims of heavy loads, and then they're not to be used ever for utility. That is because at some point we have determined that the utility rope is no longer good enough for life safety, so we've taken that out of service, we've marked it, and then we don't use that again for life safety for a number of reasons we'll get to later in the presentation. Only the block creel construction using continuous filament and fiber for load-bearing elements is suitable for life safety. For the life safety rope, the manufacturer is going to have information on how to use it, how to inspect it, how to properly maintain it, and then at what point do we retire that rope. Like I said, we're going to go all through reasons for retiring a rope, and some of that might just be because of age. And once you get to a certain age, based on the manufacturer's instructions, we get rid of that rope. The ropes must pass field inspections, and then, like I talked about, we have to classify between life safety and utility. The criteria for life safety rope is that there are no abrasions, visible damage, there's been no exposure to heat or flames, no high impact load, or materials that can deteriorate the rope. So if you've got a couple of people on a rope and they take a couple falls, a lot of times that shock load is going to be what we go ahead and take it out of service for. We will do an inspection, and we do have devices that prevent needing it to get out of service, but if we need to, we'll do that. One thing about the ropes passing field inspections, all these ropes are tested at the manufacturer, and they are tested until they break. So they've got a couple machines there, they put a piece of rope in it, and they test that all the way until it breaks. That's how you get your safety rating for that and your kill deal rating. For your life safety rope, there's going to be a rope log that stays with these ropes for the entirety of their life. And there must be an identified marking on those ropes too. We've got marking on the end of the ropes. We've also have marking on the bags, and then we identify by the colors of rope and what kind of tracers there are on that rope. That's how we log them in our rope log. And then removing ropes from service. If, like I said, if it's taken hard shock load, if it has been under sustained load for a long time, anything that's going to deteriorate that rope, it's something that if you just don't feel like you should be getting on that rope, you don't feel that it's safe, we will take it out of service at that point. So, and determine, depending on how far into the rope there is damage or deterioration, it may be completely destroyed and taken out of service, or it might become a utility rope, which I've got a few back there that I can show you the difference in utility rope and what it looks like versus our life safety. And then we need to refer to our SOPs as classification and destruction. For ours, like I said, as long as it has a certain length that is not completely destroyed, we will go ahead and probably use that for utility rope, and that's what's gonna be what's hauling up other gear or anything that you're not putting someone on, or it could be even be a tag line. Utility rope's fine. Okay, so for utility rope, you're gonna be hoisting your equipment. So in this picture, we see a chainsaw being hoisted up. That's perfectly fine. Because, like I said, if that chainsaw falls for some reason, if it breaks through that utility rope, which it's not going to, because it's still a good rope, it's just a chainsaw, it's not a life. So that's where it's okay if it is used for utility. We also use it for securing unstable objects or cordoning off areas on scenes. You can use it for making sure that if you don't have someone to heal your ladder, you can use that utility rope around the ladder, around a tree or whatever else around this building, some way to make sure that ladder's not going to slide out and cause further injury to the people that are working on it, moving up and down that ladder. We're going to talk about utility rope industry standards. But there's no NFPA standards for that. The reason is that we're not using it for putting each one of us in a harness and then hanging off of a utility rope 200 feet above the ground. So that's why there's no NFPA standards. And then downgraded life safety rope may be used as utility rope. Just like I said, if we've been working with a 200 foot or 300 foot piece of rope multiple times, but over the last couple of years, we started to have some degradation, or it's been exposed to heat in an area. We can chop it off at a certain point, and then we can make it utility rope. For us, what we would do is we have on the rescue, we've got 200 foot pieces of rope and 300 foot pieces of rope. If we get to where now one of our pieces of rope has less than 190, 180 feet, we're going to take it out because that's no longer something that we're going to be able to use if we have a high angle or even a low angle rescue. Inspection for damage regularly. For our SOPs, we do that once a week on Saturdays, and then we refer back to our rope log. We put it on our rope log and we put it under the captain's seat. That's where that is. It's a purple binder. But we're going to be looking for anything that looks like it shouldn't be there. We're looking for pieces of debris, pieces of glass. It's dirty, anything like that. And if it is dirty, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be taken out of service. So make sure that all downgraded rope is effectively marked. I've got one back here I can show you. This is off the water rescue. For us, what we do is we put a big black mark right there, and then we make it as long as possible so that we know that that is going to be out of service, or it's going to be utility rope. It's not going to be a life safety rope. Also, if you look at the bag, you can tell that there's no other real markings on it to say a 200 foot piece of rope or 300 foot piece of rope, anything like that. So, question number one, how are life safety and utility ropes different? Yes, Captain Weeks.
You can't use utility rope for life safety.
That is correct. Why not?
We don't want to risk someone's life. If a piece of rope that's maybe taken out of service, it's not expired or has an abrasion or cut or a lesion.
That is correct. Good job, Captain Weeks. You were on the rescue at one point, weren't you?
It's hard to say.
Hard to say without knowing for sure. All right, learning objective number 2, we're going to describe the different materials and methods for construction of the rope. This is where it gets real interesting for like 15 slides, so bear with me, we'll get through it. Just remember that for Springfield, we only have one type of life safety rope, and it has one material. The only difference would be our throwbacks for water rescue. They're going to be a different different type of material and differently made than our life safety ropes. So we have synthetic fibers and natural fibers. Synthetic fibers are going to be used for your life safety ropes. They're not going to be used for your utility ropes. That's where your natural fibers are going to come in a lot more. The reason for that is it prevents mold and mildew. It holds up to a lot of different abrasions and everything else a lot better with our natural fibers, or our synthetic fibers. And the other thing is synthetic fibers are just that. They are made in a factory. So we can make these 300, 400, 500 feet long fiber that's continuous versus our natural fibers, which aren't going to go that far. So old times, old style would be like horsehair and things like that. So you're not going to get a rope that's a very long, sustained fiber. It wouldn't be strong enough to hold up what we're going to do for life safety. Construction materials. Like I said, the main difference between synthetic and natural ropes are that your synthetic is going to be resistant to a lot of different elements. If it's wet, it's actually going to be just fine. Your natural fiber ropes, when they get wet, they have a tendency to snap. They get actually quite a bit weaker whenever they do. And then the longevity. If you think about synthetic versus natural fibers as like a deck, like a wooden deck versus a composite deck. Your natural wooden deck is going to have less longevity. It's going to have mold and mildew, and it's going to break down over time. Where that composite deck is going to stick around for a really long time. Longevity, it's easier to clean, it's easier to take care of. It's also why we use those, and a lot of times they're stronger too. And like I said, also about the natural fibers, they lose strength when they're hot, or I'm sorry, when they're wet, and they rot rapidly. It's pretty hard to get rid of the rope rot once it's started on a natural rope. Synthetic fibers, we've got all these right here. Polypropylene, polyester nylon, polystyrene, Kevlar, and Spectra. The one disadvantage that it has is it can melt when it's exposed to heat. That's really about one of the only disadvantages. The advantages is that it is huge resistant to water, mildew, the rope rot, mold, and shrinkage. If it gets wet, it's not going to shrink up, whereas your natural fiber rope, it will shrink because it's a natural fiber and it takes in that water and it's going to shrink up. When it does that, it's also going to come brittle. Also, longer life than natural rope, and they're lightweight but extremely strong because you've got these strands that run the entirety of the rope from one end to the other end. It's a one continuous strand. And then they are a lot easier to maintain. So you can throw those in the washer, you can throw through a rope cleaner, you can just rinse it off with water, or even just scrub it. So they are super easy to maintain. If you think about that like that, composite deck too, if anyone's ever dealt with those, super easy to clean versus a wood deck that you're gonna have to power wash, and it doesn't clean nearly as easily as your synthetics. So natural fibers, we've got vanilla, sisal, hemp, and cotton. And the disadvantages are they are prone to your mold, mildew, and rope rot. They deteriorate when exposed to chemicals very rapidly, whereas your synthetic will not be as susceptible to chemical issues. You still want to get them cleaned up if you do have a chemical issue with them or contact. And then they burn in contact with embers or flames. The advantage is that they are resistant to sunlight and a lot more than the synthetic rope. And then if it encounters any kind of flame or heat, it's going to do more of a char than melt. Whereas your synthetic fibers, if those have any kind of heat exposure, they're going to melt. And so it's something that you want to be aware of on an extremely hot day where you're going over a metal piece of flashing on a roof or something. All right,
last much longer, they're a lot more durable, they don't shrink and warp as much. The natural ones are a little more durable to flame resistance, and that's about it. They're a lot more prone to breaking, fraying.
Yeah, that's about it. That's exactly right. Alright, we're gonna talk about rope construction. So we've got these 4 different types. We've got curve mantle, laid or twisted rope, braided, and then braid on braid. Curve mantle is gonna be what we have is our life safety, and then a lot of our utility ropes are gonna be curve mantle. It's a German term, kern meaning core, and mantle meaning the sheath. So we have inside, and it shows you right here, you've got a core, and then you've got a sheath that goes around it. So you've got lots of backups, and this is extremely strong. That's why we use this for our life safety if we're gonna set up a system to rappel on, or do a pick-off, or even low angle basket tending is what we're gonna use our current ropes for. And then we have the twisted type of construction, braided, and then the braid on braid. Braid on braid is a pretty good, it's a very strong rope too, but it's nothing that we would want to rappel off of or try to do any sort of effective rescue off of. Laid rope is going to be more of what your polypropylene throw bags are, and we have a way to clean those as well. And then you can tell, and we'll get those at a break. After a break, I'll show you the difference in that for your laid rope. So again, curve metal rope, you've got your internal core and all these fibers running the entire length. And then you've got your sheath right here. So kern, mantle. But all these fibers on the inside, the core, we have one of the best demonstrations we can do on how strong these ropes are is we will hang it up onto over a rafter, a piece of rope that we're already going to take out of service, and then we'll load it with a harness. We'll take this sheath off and we'll start to peel away pieces of these core. And we'll get down to usually about 2 or 3 of those little pieces, those little strands of fiber before it actually will drop you. It'll let you go a little ways and it'll drop you. So you've got multiple pieces of that in there along with that sheath, and it is an extremely strong piece of rope. That is just something we do to enhance the confidence when it comes to rappelling off a rope. The fact that we have 2 ropes on us makes it extremely safe. The safeties that we put into,
With that being, does it help dissipate the heat when it's going through, different,
your devices.
devices, with it having so many different braids?
I don't know for sure, but I can't imagine that it would hurt that. And a lot of times we use aluminum devices, but I'm sure that helps that there are lots of different grades there. I'd be curious if like a braid on braid versus that, wonder what the rope heat it would do. Yeah.
I always wondered that.
Yeah, I don't know actually. So I'll see if Becker would be the one, he would be like, I'll do a test. All right, for your curve metal rope, there are 2 different types. There's a dynamic rope and there's a static rope. Really quickly, dynamic rope is a high stretch rope used when you're gonna take a long fall or when a long fall is possible. Designed to stretch without breaking, and the elasticity is a disadvantage when raising or lowering a heavy load, not used for rescue or hoisting. Reason is, if you had a large patient plus rescuer on a Stokes basket and you're trying to raise them up, that rope is going to continue to strengthen or to lengthen out. You can actually stress a rope out enough that whenever you're done, you have to lay it out and it has to actually relax and go back to where it was before these dynamic ropes. Static ropes are what we're going to use. They're used for rope rescue operations, rappelling, hoisting, and anywhere where the falls are not going to be great. And if we do have a fall, we've got other devices called screamers, and those are going to be placed in there so it takes the pressure off of that rope if something were to happen to it. And then static ropes designed for low stretch without breaking. And they must not elongate more than 10% when tested on a load equal to 10% of the breakage rate. That is called the 10% rule, which you'll learn in another chapter. Static rope, fire department use, this is what we're gonna be using for all of our rescues. Dynamic rope, if you go down to Arkansas and go rock climbing, that's what you're using. Because if you take a 10-foot fall with a dynamic rope, it's gonna give you enough stretch, it's actually not gonna hurt when you fall. And it's actually kind of fun. If you take a 10-foot fall with a static rope, it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna feel it for a while, especially someone old like me. It's gonna hurt a lot. Because that rope doesn't give with your fall. Your laid or twisted ropes are only going to be utility rope. So here's a good picture right here. That's what, if you do CrossFit rope climbs, it's kind of what it looks like there. If you have done that, you know that they have all kinds of issues with, they fall apart really easily, they don't last super long, and they're not gonna be as strong as our other ropes. They are susceptible to abrasion and other physical damage, and once they encounter some sort of damage, they're immediately losing their strength. So any one of these pieces starts to, let's say it gets an abrasion on it, we run it up against something and it starts to cut it, it's immediately losing strength. Whereas our kern mantle is gonna hold up a lot better. And then it's going to possibly unravel at that point too. So that's why we only use these twisted or laid ropes as utility. I don't think we have many on our boat. I think we might have a couple of ones for like hoisting up the gear rack. That's about it. And we're at the point that I'm kind of afraid it's gonna break. The advantage of it is it's easy to inspect. You can take these out. You can obviously see if you've got rips or tears or abrasions in that rope. You can also take it and whenever you twist it backwards on itself against the braid or the leg, you can see if there's anything inside of it that might be something you need to get rid of, some sort of contaminant. And then we've got braided rope. They're gonna be less likely to twist than a laid rope, but they are vulnerable to abrasion and damage. Again, the braided rope is going to be used as utility rope, and they do use synthetic fibers. So that's what we're going to be using at water rescues as well. Braid on braid, it's extremely strong, but it does not resist abrasions nearly as well as the kern mantle ropes do. And then the sheath may slide on the inner core. So these kern mantle ropes, that sheath is not going to slide away from the core. If it does, there's a problem at some point, and that's where you're going to need to do a thorough inspection and take it out of service or move it to utility rope if you need to. Braid on braid is going to be utility rope. Okay, how is kern mantle rope different from braid on braid rope? Yeah.
It has its core and then its sheath around it, and then the braid is wrapped around it, so like wrap around.
Yep. See how we're doing on the time. Everybody doing all right? Does anyone want coffee or drinks or anything? We're ready. Keep on chugging along. So in a rescue operation, where a vehicle has slid over the side of a cliff, would be more appropriate to use a dynamic rope or a static rope in water?
Static, because it will hold the load without stretching.
Yep, absolutely. And you could sit there with a stokes basket and a rescuer on that rope, and you could actually, over a few minutes, you could see how much further they have gone away from wherever they're at. If they just stood still where they were at, it would keep on moving down. So, that. Learning objective 3, we're going to describe procedures for inspecting, cleaning, and maintaining these ropes. Oh. So for your inspection of the ropes, we're going to inspect after every use, or if we're not doing it every use, we need to do it every year as well. So if a rope wasn't used at all last year, it needs to be done on that year mark. And then we talked about earlier, and we documented in our rope log for for the rescue one, it's gonna be a purple binder under the captain's seat. And then we've got a couple of pictures here that show if you have damage found, they need to be removed from service or have them destroyed. So you're looking for glass or metal shavings, splinters or foreign objects. Pretty much going back to fire 1 and 2, it's kind of like inspection of a hose. If you've got any sort of obvious deformities or abrasions or anything like that, or foreign objects in there, you would clean it. So you're gonna go through and you're gonna inspect that entire rope. After we do a training evolution, we go through and we kind of constantly inspect it while we are doing our training evolution for the day. So whenever we're putting the rope up, we're looking at it, just like you would like when you're loading hose on a fire truck. You're already looking at it, and you're not even having to think about it. So for that, like let's say you're bagging your rope, you're taking a look at it, you're feeling for any kind of bumps or abrasions or anything that doesn't feel right. And then if you have any question, you can either refer to the manufacturer's specifications or talk to one of the rope techs is going to probably be nerded out on it and know exactly if it's supposed to be that way or not. Current metal rope, the damage might not be obvious in the current metal rope. So whenever you're inspecting current metal rope, put a little bit of tension on it, because sometimes the core will be damaged, but your sheath won't be. So if you can put some tension on it while you're testing it, that's going to be a really good way to find out if there's any issue on the inside. The reason that is we put these ropes through devices called descent devices, and Petzl ID, as great as it is, that cam, if it's shock loaded, that cam will slam down on that, and it is a brake, but it is a brake for you, but in doing so, if it continues to take multiple hits to that, you can actually damage that core. If that core gets damaged, it's a good time to take that out of service and then reevaluate if it needs to be made utility rope or just be completely destroyed. Like I said, if the sheath is damaged, the core is probably damaged too, because if you can tell, like this has got some frays, but this is why it's utility rope. On the inside, it's not bad on the inside, so it's still super strong. Everything there, if the sheath is damaged, then yeah, you're probably gonna have some sort of damage to the core as well. But, like I said, you might have the core that's damaged and the sheath is untouched. And if there's any doubt of the rope's integrity, remove it from service. So if you look at it and you're like, I don't know if I would trust going off a Hammond's tower with that rope, probably better take it out of service. Because a $300 rope is a lot better than losing someone's life. Inspecting the rope further, for the current metal ropes, you'll be looking for damage to the core, irregularities in the shape or the weave. So you can see the weave in there. If we've got some that are a little bit bigger and some a little bit smaller, we know that it's been under a lot of tension. And so we've got, it's been shock loaded or something else. And if it's not the way it's supposed to be, then we don't want to repel on the line with it. If it has a foul smell, it could mean that there's mold or mildew or rope rot. Discoloration, if it's rough or obvious abrasions, or the fuzziness is the deterioration. That's what we got going on right here. Okay, we've also got a few different oil spots there. Again, that's why we use this for utility rope. Water rescue, you can use this if you need to, because it is not going to be a high angle environment. There's a couple other factors, but that's why we've got this used as utility rope. Synthetic leg rope, we talked about that a little bit earlier, but you can untwist it to to inspect it, so you're making sure that everything looks correct. The sheet isn't sliding away from that cord. Cord still feels good, and it's not pulling away. You don't have any bumps or anything, any tears, anything like that. That's what you're looking for there. And then mildew isn't necessarily a problem, but it should be fixed. So clean the rope, mold too. Clean the rope thoroughly, let it dry. When you're letting it dry, it's easy to just put it on a rack, put it on a drying rack, and then let it dry that way. Don't ever use a clothes dryer, because that could deteriorate the rope more. Now, like we talked about with high heat or heat at all, it's not gonna be great for rope. And then the synthetic laid rope, if it's soft, crusty, stiff, or brittle spots, it's gonna need to be taken out of service, unless it's going to be used as just a piece of utility rope around the station that maybe nothing super important, depending on it. Excessive stretching, so if it just continues to stretch, probably because it's old, and we've all had those dry rotted, those ropes and everything else, or rubber bands or whatever that just snap. Cuts, nicks, abrasions, chemical damage, dirt and grease, and obvious flaws. That's what we're gonna be looking for inspecting our natural fiber, or I'm sorry, our synthetic ropes. Natural fiber laid ropes, they're gonna deteriorate with age. So, in just a few years, if a rope isn't even used, but it just sits there for years, it's gonna start to break down like anything else that's natural. And once it does, you need to remove from service at the end of the manufacturer's life. Because we can buy a new rope, and then that's worth more than dropping a chainsaw off. Then inspect the natural fiber. We're looking for ruptured fibers and powdering, spots between the strands, or an odor that indicates mildew or mold. Rusty spots could mean that it's been up against some piece of metal that's rusting. Probably not a good idea to put it with that. Or the accumulation of greasy materials. Rope rot, I've kind of mentioned it a few different times, but it'll spread from a rotten rope to a new rope if it is touching it or if it's in close proximity. So it's important that if you find that rope rot, it's kind of like sickness, it is contagious to other natural fiber ropes. Move it away from that rope, probably remove it from surface. You're gonna clean and re-inspect the rope once you have taken care of rope rot, and then you want to ventilate the area before putting it back in. So if it's in a compartment that's had a lot of mold and mildew or something else in there that's causing that rope rot, I'm gonna take everything out of there, wipe it down, get it all clean, and then you can make sure that it's dry and then put it back. Inspect of a braided rope. Again, you're looking for nicks, cuts, heat sears, excessive use of fuzziness, or unusual fuzziness, and mushy spots. And then when you inspect the braid-on-braid rope, you're gonna be looking for all of those. Shrunken diameter means that it's starting to lose, it's starting to deteriorate, lose its integrity. Okay, another question. When inspecting a rope, what kinds of damage would require that the rope be removed from service at all?
Any cuts, burns, abrasions, anything that belongs, you can tell the inner core's been compromised.
Very good. Everybody doing good, or still awake? Alright, maintenance guidelines. Avoid abrasions and unnecessary wear. Avoid sharp angles, bends, and knots. That's going to come in really handy whenever you're setting up systems. When we talk about knot and knot efficiency, sharp bends in your knots actually will lessen the efficiency of that rope. That's why one of the best knots you can do for an anchor is a turn around a tree, is a frictionless hitch, so that you have near 100% efficiency of that rope. Because the more that it bends, the more likely that you are going to have an issue with that mark. whole bunch of, you got a crazy knot that maybe I try to make one day, and it's got all kinds of nasty bends and sharp turns, that knot is probably not gonna be very efficient because I am lessening the efficiency of my rope with every bend. Avoid sustained loads. Protect the ends from damage. If your ends start to see some damage there, it can start to unravel from there. So whenever we cut these, or when they cut them at the manufacturer, they have a hot knife. They cut it and then they melt that so that there's no unraveling there. Avoid rust. Prevent contact with chemicals, and then reverse the ends periodically, and don't walk on the rope. The reason that we reverse the ends every once in a while is if I take this rope and right out of this bag and I just use 20 or 30 feet of it and then I shove it right back in there and I keep doing that for a year, I put a lot of strain on this side of the rope and I haven't put any on the other. So I'm not allowing this to relax and let it not take abuse and wear and tear, and the other side is perfectly fine. So every once in a while, if you've noticed, man, we've only used this end of the rope, pull the entire thing out and take what was the start of it and make it the end, so that we are elongating the life of these ropes. And then don't walk on the rope. Pretty self-explanatory, but if we're walking on, if we've got rope on gravel and you go and you step on that rope and you turn, now you're just grinding that rope into the gravel, could hurt the sheath or the cord, and then we're gonna have, after a while, we're gonna have issues. Okay, question, your department has recently had an issue with rope maintenance causing more ropes to be discarded than necessary. Make a short, easy to remember rope maintenance log and share with your department. So, it's not really a question, but if you did have issues with, man, we're losing a lot of ropes, one thing you can do is you can track your metrics when it comes to that. Why are we losing ropes? Are we using the same rope multiple times? On Rescue 1, we've got multiple different ropes, so we try to remember if we have a technical recovery that we need to go to, and we used this rope and a 300-foot rope or whatever, we mark that down. Next time we do an evolution, we're probably not going to use those ropes because we're going to make sure that we elongate the lifespan of them. Cleaning your synthetic ropes. The first thing you're going to do is clean the gross debris off of it. So just like when we leave a fire, we clean all that nasty crap off of us real good, and then we come home and we do a really good thorough cleaning of our gear. Same thing with these. If we've got dirt and mud and all kinds of stuff on there, we're gonna knock that stuff off of there, and then whenever we get home, we're gonna do a really good thorough cleaning with it. Wash using water and mild detergent or fabric softener, and immediately dry the ropes. Because if you have a wet rope and you go to store it, it's a cesspool for mold and mildew. So take a little bit of time. It just takes 12 to 24 hours for that rope to completely dry. Then you can bag it up, put it back on. Different types of cleaning. You can wash by hand, use a rope washing device, or a washing machine. When you wash it by hand, you can put it in a sink. If you've got a big enough sink, you can enter or a small enough rope. You put it in the sink and just scrub it down and wash it really good with a mild detergent. And scrub with a bristle brush. And then you can use a mesh bag if you're going to soak it for a while. We have had ropes that have gotten extremely abused in a training or a call. We make sure that those are soaked. If it comes in contact with the blood or something like that, we're going to want to soak those for a while. And then rinse thoroughly. If you use a rope washing device, it's a little plastic device that hooks up to a hose. It's got little bristles on the end of it. You shove this through it and you just pull it through while it runs the water through it, and it actually does a really good job of cleaning the ropes. The reason that it does is because there's multi-directional, there's a lot of little balance in that little device, and it cleans that rope from all directions, so that we know that if you just lay it on the ground and you scrub one side and flip it over, you scrub the other side, you might be missing two sides. You might have got it all, but we know that with these devices, we're gonna get everything. You don't use detergent with those. It's really just gonna be water. And then it removes mud and surface debris, but it does not address deep cleaning issues. So if you've got chemicals or bodily fluids or something else that have got into this rope pretty deep, your rope cleaning device, not gonna touch it. You can at least get the gross contaminants off of that, but then I would throw it into a washing machine. Which, if you do that, there's a way to do that as well. You place some rope in a mesh bag and you put it on the coolest temperature, because again, we don't want to expose this to a lot of heat. And then put just a little bit of detergent in there, and then it can be used to rinse rope clean with a high pressure washer. So those are different ways to wash your synthetic ropes. Cleaning your natural fiber ropes. You're going to be a little more gentle with the natural fiber ones. I've talked about before, they're not as strong, they're more susceptible to breaking. So wipe gently to get the dirt and contaminants off there. You're not going to use water because it makes it brittle. They become extremely weak whenever they're exposed to water. And then dry the rope if it does get wet. All right, how should synthetic fiber ropes be washed and dried?
You can run inside of our machines that we have that are designed for it. Like you said, there's different attachments for the hose, and we can clean it, you know, brush it in all directions gently. Make sure you get all four bodies and everything out. Then you're gonna wanna lay it out so that way it can get dried properly outside of the sunshine where it can get dirty. And then same thing with natural fiber, we're not gonna wanna use any water, but we're gonna make sure that we kind of brush it and get all the debris and stuff out of it and then water it.
Yep, that's exactly right. All right, we're about halfway through. You guys want to take like 5 minute break? Seem like it's going all right. Yeah, probably leaning more on that chair. I'm trying to like get out of the way so that.
Yeah, I mean, each is the best training environment. Be different if you're in a classroom, I think, instructors.
Yeah.
Kind of hard for you to stay out of the way and you know, have a clicker or anything.
Yeah, and that does kind of stink. But it's almost more comfortable here.
Sure.
But I also like teaching in front of classes.
Yeah.
Thanks for my assuming time on the slide.
The computer shows you're at 50 something minutes.
We're gonna get rocking. I'm halfway through this, but then we'll go over
Cause the skills take a good amount of time.
skills are gonna take.
Skills and tests.
Yeah.
Yeah, test is gonna take you 5-10 minutes. Skills will take.
Agree in that.
Yeah, very good.
Awesome.
Skills gonna take a little bit.
Try to be thorough.
Hope I'm not going too far over on the slides, but I feel like some of them, like the explaining certain things about it.
We're gonna do this and find out the mic's off or something.
No, we're redundant here. But then, uh-oh.
Oh.
This one's dead.
What? Uh-oh.
We got unplugged somehow.
Oh, I see what you did. Did that still record?
This one's still going.
Did it still record even when it went to screensaver?
Yeah, it's still going right now.
Okay.
Can't stop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I kept
I'm
looking
sorry about
back.
this one. This one died.
I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's a screensaver.
I saw that too, and I panicked for you, and I was like, oh.
I did, but I saw the red light on the other camera, and I was like, oh, okay, I think we're good.
So now that camera's not alive.
Thank you again for sitting through this. I appreciate it. Because you had a choice.
But thank you.
I'm not in charge. You're in charge.
I'm telling.
Is our rain done? Or do we have another set?
I suppose we can see. I suppose it's like a spring storm. It can either go either way, but I don't think like the elder after tornadoes or anything, but you can just let it rain.
And it rained hard last night.
Yes, it did.
This one died.
I didn't, you know what, I never really thought about like different types, like, is that prevent it being hot?
I've always wondered that, because I'm into aspect when we went through a rescue, and that was just part of the design of it, is having that many strings, so small as the rig that helped us with the,
Thank you.
you know, I don't know.
That really helped.
Nailed it.
That's a great question. I love it. But I bet Becker will either know or figure it out, I'm sure. Well. Couple more moments. So, real quick, to explain something I was talking about earlier, how the core can be damaged, but the sheet isn't. Got our Petzl ID here. Got this sits there for a really, really long time, or you do it multiple times with one spot, or if it takes a big, hard drop, smashing that. But your sheet is pretty resilient, it'll bounce back. So that's why the sheet may look okay, but the core is not. Again, I would still probably fell off the rope. But not, maybe if I was doing some tree cutting or something. Well, we have 18:1 safety ratios and everything, so.
Do we?
Huh?
Do we?
I don't know. Is it more like 23?
18 to 1 is our standard.
Yeah.
But it's all rated, even 18-1 and then rated at 80% or something.
Yep.
That's what I thought. It's
Mhm.
even got.
But there's no way any of our stuff touches 18 to 1.
Yeah.
That's a made up thing, you know.
It's a made up thing so that you don't make a 9-to-1 system and put 7 people on it. Because if we're doing that, we need a different device. Alright, we'll wait till Gall gets back. So at the end, we're gonna have a 10-question quiz. 30 to pass.
Pardon?
What? Ready? Set. And then, alright, real quick too, at the end of that, our skills will be, water knot, overhand, safety, figure 8 on a bike, figure 8, clove hitch around an object, it's gonna be what you use for your ladders, and then your figure 8 follow through, cleaning and inspecting. So just a heads up on what that is. Might as well show you real quick so I got you here. But what I was talking about, how did I show you this or not? Maybe I didn't. Yeah, I didn't realize you said that. So, all right, we'll get back to it. Just trying to be thorough. All right, your rope log, we've talked about it quite a few times, but it's gonna have all the information, including product label, identification label, manufacturer's instructions, purchase date, your use, maintenance and inspection, and the incidents that have impacted that rope. So if we took a hard fall, a note in there, took a hard fall from 5 feet to 10 feet, dropped a Stokes basket with gear in it, Stokes basket weighed 80 pounds, something to that effect, just so we know that that rope has had some snow. We are gonna do an inspection on it, make sure it's good. One of the things you're gonna do with your use, so we make sure that we're really specific when it comes to, we use the green rope for the main, and we use the blue rope for the belay, so that we know next time, since that main had a lot of stress on it, the belay didn't, next time we can use the blue as the main, and then the green as the belay. So going back to that, switching up how the rope is put in there, switching up which ropes take the load and what kind of sustained load they have. It just kind of helps you through that too. And if we run a call, we'll usually put the call number on there so that we can go back if we need to look and say, okay, what exactly do we do? We can look at the narrative and see, we use this rope for that. So the rope log helps determine when we need to take a rope out of service. When we get to a certain date, based on manufacturer's specifications for our own SOPs, that rope, regardless of how well it's holding up, is going to be taken out of date. And the rope log is going to be stored in the station or with the bags for Rescue 1. We have said that before, it's going to be under the captain's seat. But one thing to remember, rope log's not important for utility rope. You don't need it for that. It's not necessary. The reason is that we're not hanging our lives off of utility ropes, so we don't need it. Alright, this one should be pretty easy. What information is stored in the rope log?
Time it's used,
Yep.
potential damages,
Yeah. Nice. When it's inspected. all those labels will be in there. And then your length of rope will also be on the end of these ropes of the life safety. But that's also a really good indicator of this being a utility rope, because I don't have a label on there that says anything. Just got a big Sharpie marker. Storage. You want a clean, dry, unheated area with plenty of air that's circulating. Goes back to preventing mold, mildew, and rope rot. So you want it in a really good area for that. You do notice that there's maybe some of that happening. Remove it, clean that area, and then you can either put it back or put it in a different area. Protected from weather, sunlight, chemicals, and fumes. You don't want to throw these ropes into the same compartment as our fuel for our chainsaws or our fuel for our generators, fans, anything like that, because it's not good for you. I wouldn't want to soak a rope or have one sitting in gasoline or 50-to-1 mix for months and then expect to go over the side of Hammond's Tower with it. It's not something I want to do. And that is exactly right. You don't want to put it in there with chainsaws. You don't want to put it in there with any kind of power tool like that. And then when you are storing it, the best way to store it is in a rope bag. Super easy. When you put it back in there, you just call it bagging. So you just run it through. You don't have to worry about it coiling up or knotting or anything like that. As long as you're just putting it right in there, and then you tie it off at the end. And you can pretty much throw those bags and it'll unravel just fine. What? I just gave that one away too. What's the best way to rope bag? Best way to store. We've got a couple different ones. We've got these bags that you just put straight in there. That opens up. You put the rope in, cinch it down, you're good to go. We've also got these bags that are kind of fancier. They roll out like a tarp. And when you do that, you have the entire bag open. You've got your tarp. You're gonna just flake it in there. You've got a spot to tie off your end, flake it, fold it up, put it in, and you're done. It is super simple. Even a rescue guy can do it. Yeah. All right, learning objective number 4, describe how webbing is used and how it should be inspected, maintained, and stored. So does everybody have webbing gear, stuff like that? I love webbing. So we're just gonna talk a little bit more about it so that you know even more specifics. There are life safety and utility applications for that. As you know that, we can use these webbing, pieces of webbing, tubular webbing, for hasty harnesses. If in a real pinch, I wouldn't do that over a real harness. But if you needed to, you could have that as a hasty harness, or you could use it for a victim if you needed to. Then you have utility applications as well. Kind of going back to my example of a ladder up against the building, if you don't have someone to heel it, it's not a bad idea to throw a piece of webbing, do a clove hitch around the ladder, and then take it back to something that's going to keep that ladder in place. So different forms, there's a piece of material, different forms of ways to use it. You can use it for a ladder belt or a loop or a rescue harness. Different types of webbing. So here we've got our flat webbing, here we've got tubular. More than likely, everyone that has gotten webbing in the last few years is going to get this tubular webbing. But that is what we say when we're talking about tubular. There's a tube through there, like it's, you can open it up like a tube. It's only differences there. Inspection, maintenance, and storage of that. You're going to follow the same guidelines as your synthetic rope because it is a synthetic material. So if you've got gross contaminants on it, clean it off of there, and then a lot of times if I use mine and I've encountered some sort of spill or nasty bodily fluid or whatever, I'm going to throw it in a soaker. There's a lot of times I'm just going to throw it away though. I'm going to throw it away and I'm going to go to Ozark Adventure and I'm going to get another 20-foot piece of webbing and call it a day. Because they're cheap. A good way to store them is you can either roll them if they're a shorter piece, or you can daisy chain it like this super easy, and it's really handy because whenever you do need it, you can pull it out of there. As long as this is done correctly, now I can just undo it and I'm ready to go. That's the way that we keep them on the water rescue rigs as well, the water rescue boats. And it's just a really simple way to make sure that they're stored neatly. They're not gonna get wrapped around anything. So how is tubular webbing or flat webbing generally used in the fire service?
Tying stuff off, use it for some rescue scenarios, dragging.
So we, Fire 1 and 2, we use it a little bit for like drags. Typically not gonna do that in a house fire unless it's a real big person or whatever, but you could do it, it just takes a little bit longer. But yeah, exactly, you can use it for all kinds of different things. Super versatile. Alright, learning objective number 5, we're gonna identify knots. So, things to remember when you're talking about knots. For the test, they might ask you a question of like, how do you tie a figure 8 with a bend? And they're gonna talk about the running end, the working end, and then the standing part. So, can be sort of confusing, but your running end is gonna be the free end that you're pulling up. Your standing part is gonna be the section between where you're pulling and then your knot. He's got a knot right here on this ladder, and then your working end is gonna be where that knot or hitch is. To tie a knot, so you're gonna form the knot, you're gonna tighten until it's snug, you're gonna dress it. It is, or move slack is what they're calling it, but you want it to be dressed nicely because you don't want extra bends in there that are unnecessary. So one of the most commonly dressed knot is a figure 8 on white or figure 8 bend, and make sure that you've got all the bends in the right spot and then it's tied correctly. You can also do a check off when you do that. So if you've got it dressed perfectly, you can go through in 2, 4, 6, 8, and you know that, and we'll show you that later, but you can look at that knot and see that you have it completely dressed correctly. When it comes to water knots you're gonna use webbing. It's really important when you're dressing those knots too, because you want a really good fold in there, and then because whenever you're done with your operation, if you've had a lot of pressure on that, it's gonna be really hard to get undone regardless. But if it's not dressed properly, it's gonna really suck. You're gonna have to roll it. You might have to soak it in water, and then you can get it taken apart. And then with a lot of knots, and even the water knot, you're going to do an overhand safety. Another time you're gonna do an overhand safety, and that's just a simple knot that everyone knows. So it's just a overhand safety knot, nothing crazy. Another way, spot you could use that is if you're taking your life safety rope, you're thrown over an edge, and you're getting ready to rappel down, put a stopper on it there. Because you don't want to get to the end of that, realize you had 10 more feet, rappel off the end, and then you're on disability. So suitable knots must be easy to tie and untie, be secure under a load, and then reduce the rope strength as little as possible. That's what we talked a little bit about earlier with the efficiency of knots. And if you get really deep dive into it, you will see that certain knots have different efficiencies. The more bends they have, typically, and the sharper, typically you're gonna have less efficiency for that rope. So we've got a bend or a bike here, we've got a loop and a round turn. So when it comes to, if you download one of these apps to teach you how to tie knots, it's gonna say form a bite, then do a loop, then do a round turn, or do this with your working end, or this with your running end. Just kind of some simple terms there. Types of knots. This is a clove hitch, and you're gonna see that with your ladders. So
that's something you're gonna do on your ladder to make sure that once you have your rung or your fly thrown out, make sure your dogs are in. You're also gonna tie off that clove hitch. Can be used for other things as well. Pretty good knot, there's a lot of friction there, that's why it works. So this person has thrown a clove hitch, and then they did a safety knot to make sure that it doesn't unravel. Because the smoother surfaces you get, it will reduce the friction, and those knots can slip out. I wouldn't repel off of them. Here we have a figure 8 bend. So, just like it implies, you're gonna have one figure 8. So you're gonna make a loop, pull through, and then you have another piece of rope. This is where you're gonna attach 2 different pieces of rope as a figure 8 bend. Be a really good example. So you got a figure 8. Now you're gonna come in with the other end, and you're gonna follow through exactly the opposite way. You're gonna pull that, and then you're gonna put safety knots on the outside. This right here shows you I made a bend here, or I made a figure 8, and then I followed it through, I tied it off, and we've attached 2 shorter pieces of rope to make one very long piece of rope. Figure 8 on a bite, and a figure 8 follow through. Figure 8 on a bite is something that you would see with tying off to a Stokes basket, or if you wanted to use it as a belay. And so, same things before. What you do though is you fold it over, bring it around, and you make a figure 8 on a dress it. Take a carabiner, and you put a safety in it as well. Take a carabiner and put it into your figure 8. And you can put it on your dorsal, whatever you need for your safety, for your belay. Or you can put it on to the front of the Stokes basket. It's really quick and down and dirty way to attach a Stokes basket. And then your figure 8 follow through, it'll end up looking like the same thing, but if you're going around an object, that's where you're gonna use the follow through. So a lot of rock climbers will use this. They're gonna get enough rope out. They're gonna start with figure 8, go around an object. They're gonna follow right back through, as the name implies, your figure 8. Dress it, tie, safety. So, something that you could also do if you had a Stokes basket, or if you were gonna climb on it, or whatever that you needed to do. Water knot, I think we're done with that. Water knot is gonna be used on your weapon. A lot of you have done this before. This is what you're gonna use. A lot of times if you're trying to make an anchor, and you're gonna make a basket or something like that, it is a simple overhand knot with one end. So it looks like that. And then you're gonna come back through and follow it straight back end to end. Follow that around, and then you're gonna bring it through. You've got a water. When you're done with that, you need to have at least 2 inches of webbing on both sides, preferably, especially for this class. You're gonna wanna have enough that you can put a safety on that. At that point, you can take this around a tree, you can basket it, you can wrap it a few different times. Common mistake with the water knot is people will match them up, just like that, and they'll do an overhand knot with 2 ends. That's a may knot, and it may not hold, because that right there is not correct. Whenever you start to pull on that, it's gonna pull away from it, and you could unravel really easily. If you have it correctly, the water knot, if it pulls on itself, all it does is just get tighter and tighter until it sucks to come off of there. So, be aware of that. If you've got both ends that are in the same spot, it's not a good knot. However, if you've got ends in opposing directions, your knot's good. And then it'll look like a square. It'll look nice.
exactly that. All right, another review question. List the common use of each of the following knots. Overhand safety.
Stopper knot.
Stopper knot. Yeah, absolutely. When we went and rappelled off of that building right down the street the other day, we used a stopper knot at the end. I didn't really wanna fly off the end. Flow hitch.
Tie off a chainsaw or some sort of tool that you're bringing up, hoisting.
Yep. And, you wanna, a lot of times, use a overhand safety with that as well. Figure eight.
Beginning of the other figure eights that you're gonna use.
Yeah, your figure eight bend or your figure eight fall through. Yep. Both really good. Figure eight bend's really easy to make. And a lot of times that's what I'm gonna go to if I'm just getting a belay that's gonna come with me, my knot's coming with me. I'm gonna first tie a figure eight bend. And I'm gonna put it through an ASAP, which we don't have here, but I'll show you sometime. And then I'll hook it into me, and then I can have my anchor up here. It's gonna run through my ASAP, and it's gonna be a self-winding belay. All right, deck number 6, describe the procedure for hoisting various tools and equipment. Getting close to the end. All right, so got some really good pictures here. Got tools, got a pick-headed axe. I don't know why anyone ever used one of those. Then a chainsaw, and then a 2.5-inch hose. All good things that, good examples of hoisting using utility rope. Don't hoist pressure cylinders. This is a random warning, but if you were to try to hoist an air pack or a bottle up and then it slipped out, it's just gonna become a rocket. So don't do that. Tag lines. These ropes can also be used as tag lines. So you've got your hoisting line here, person's up here pulling your K12 up, you've got a tag line here, and you're just using that tag line to make sure it doesn't hit the building or hit a piece of glass or break a whole bunch of stuff that we don't need to break unnecessarily. Okay, it's a couple different pieces of equipment here. We've got a carabiner and we've got a pulley. These are both pretty outdated, but we have a lot of newer types of pulleys and carabiners. They're a lot easier to lock. These carabiners, they've got a skull and crossbones there. If you can see it, it means that it's not locked off. Pretty simple, especially for us. We need that. So you're gonna twist that collar until it locks off, so that it's not able to open. You're not able to open your gate. And then your pulley is gonna be used for a lot of change of directions for mechanical advantages. Again, these are some older pulleys. Now we have newer pulleys that you can have on a carabiner and you can open up, then put your rope in. This one, as soon as, once you put your rope through there, you put that carabiner in and you're starting to work on that, whatever it is, basket or whatever, that's out. You can't ever open that again until the operation's done pretty much, or if they're at a safe spot. Mechanical advantage, really simple. We've got 2, 3, 4, and 6 to 1s here. And that's where we're gonna use pulleys and prusiks. T method is a really good thing when it comes to mechanical advantage, or at least trying to figure out what the mechanical advantage is. A lot of times we're gonna use a 3 to 1. This is a Z-rig. If you hear the term Z-rig or 3 to 1, pig rig, that's it. Actually, pig rig's not that, but Z-rig. Super simple, really easy to use, especially now with our MPDs and our pre-sewn prusiks. You can have one built in just a few minutes. Really nice thing about 3 to 1s is you can turn them into 9 to 1 really quickly, especially with our MPD or our multi-purpose device. It's got a becket on there. You can throw another carabiner and attach another 3 to 1, and you've got 9 to 1. These 4 to 1s, we've got an Aztec rig and we've got a Jag. Those are going to be 4 to 1s or 5 to 1s depending on how you configure those, but that's where you're going to see that. All right, so there he's setting up a mechanical advantage system. safety guidelines for hoisting tools. You wanna be at a balanced position when you're pulling it up. You don't wanna go over, the rail when you're trying to pull up a tool. Hand over hand method is preferred there. That way it's a lot more stable. And then an edge roller is preferable even if you've got utility rope, because just because it's utility rope and we're not using it to do life safety stuff, we still wanna take care of it and expand the longevity of that. And then use pulleys for heavy objects. Makes it a lot easier. What a pulley does is it reduces the friction. But pulleys are not 100% efficient. So that 2-to-1, it's a 2-to-1 theoretical. We can get into that later in tech class. Working teams, when we're working from a high distance, you might want some sort of rope that you're attached to. If you are close to an edge, you want to have a harness of some sort, and then a restrictive device to make sure that you don't fall over the edge while you're trying to hoist up your tool. We still good, Jeff?
I don't know.
You said I don't know? Uh-oh.
Restart.
Some say. Yep, you're still good.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, if you use, if you're high distance, you wanna use a harness if you're an edge tenant. If it's not in the cards for that, if you're just trying to hoist up a tool, you might wanna have someone backing you up, making sure that you don't fall over the edge over a chainsaw. Don't hoist near electrical hazards if that's possible. Just like raising up your ladder truck or your tower, or raising a ladder. You wanna be mindful of overhead obstructions, because you can damage yourself, the equipment, the tools, anything else. Secure nozzles of charged hand lines, pretty obvious. You don't want that thing spraying like crazy whenever you're trying to pull it up to you, and then you're all over YouTube and you look really cool. And then you use a tagline to control a hoisted object. Avoid hoisting if it is safer to carry the object upstairs or a ladder. So we've talked about all of these, but these are the common tools that you're gonna hoist up for operations. Axe, spike pole, ladder, hose line, power saw. Those are all common. List 5 safety precautions that should be taken when hoisting tools and equipment.
Make sure you have good footing, use the hand over hand method, look for overhead obstructions.
Using a softener,
Yep.
having a tenant.
Yep.
Or be harnessed.
Yeah, if you can be harnessed, be harnessed. Especially if we're like doing a rope operation and we're trying to get all of our extra crap up to us, but we don't wanna climb, 5 or 10 stories with an entire Stokes basket. We might drop rope down, pull that up. Yeah, have a restrictor there so you don't go falling over. Objective number 7, explain how ropes and knots are used during rescue and other emergencies. Okay, we're real close, we're 7 away. Life safety ropes, they're gonna be used for rappelling, lifting victims, doing a pick off, doing a loading pick off or anything, removing victims from swift water. We use it for that as well. But we never use utility ropes for those. Control zones, if we need to, we can cordon off an area with our ropes, and then we can hang signs. If we've got a trench or something like that, or some other more likely scenario, we can cordon off with our ropes and hang a bunch of signs or whatever says, this is your hot zone. Once you go past this, you're in the danger zone. Yep, tied to trees, signposts, other stationary objects. This one's great. Use it for search lines. Never done it, especially in a building. But what they've got here is they've got this rescue guy holding up that, and then that rescue guy is searching with a pipe hole and a line. So one thing I can maybe see that is like a structural collapse. That's one time that you can see them using that. Confined space, I can see that as well. But as far as doing a search like that, I don't know how applicable that is.
Large area search.
Yeah, I don't know how quickly we're gonna grab a rope and do that. But if it were tornado came through or something like that, yeah, you know, if we're going through hospitals and stuff like that, and that way, if a rod's not responding, it's pulled back this way. You can do that. Object stabilization. We want to be certain that the rope and webbing anchor points are strong before we get into stabilization. So it goes back to vehicle stabilization as well. You want to stabilize on something that is secure, not just anything that's going to fall over. I wouldn't attach it to a sapling, but I'd attach it to a 50-year-old oak tree. You want to make sure that your knots and safety are in place, and that your attachment points are secure, and then personnel are clear from the stabilization zone. Because if that stabilizing webbing or rope were to snap, you don't want them getting hurt. What are 3 uses of rope other than hoisting objects?
Stabilizing a car.
Awesome, sure. Why not? I mean, you could, maybe.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
As
long as-
webbing.
Yeah, those big wreckers, they got big pieces of webbing. They're awesome for that. They hold thousands upon thousands of pounds.
Also do large area searches.
Sure. Yep. Water rescues, you can do that too. Alright, for each of the following operations, tell whether life safety rope or utility rope should be used. So, rappel.
Life safety.
Setting of scene control parameter. Utilities. Stabilizing a vehicle.
Utility.
Lifting a rescuer out of an underground space.
Life safety.
Yep. Alright. Are there any questions you can answer? Any questions about any of this? Everybody did a pretty good job. Alright, you wanna take a quick 5-minute break? I'll get chapter quizzes ready. We'll do that, and then we will do your skills, and then we'll wrap up and be done. Sound good?
Yeah.
The German word that you were asking about is beginnen.
Beginning.
Beginnen.
Beginning.
Yeah. So you could say like, wir beginnen 6 Uhr.
Let's hear. We. Yeah.
6 Uhr be at 6 o'clock. So it's, I totally forgot about that.
You speak German?
I took 5 years of meaningless German, 4 years in high school, a year in college.
Why?
I don't know.
I get to ask you this question.
Oh, I didn't know that. I had to look it up.
You know what Carmel was before I said?
I didn't actually. I had no idea.
I didn't know that was German.
But I mean,
Makes sense. Those silly engineers over there.
Austin Jones.
Very mental. I would totally tell off on the clothing. You said you wanted?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. He's like, let's get some testing machine freaking done.
That one's coming around.
I don't know. Go from the office.
Yeah. Yeah, here's one of the,
Is that a reader? Oh, I bet they're the people that drill out pipes, you know? The reach for rooters.
Yeah.
Roto rooters. Because I have bad handwriting, so I write small, but I can't write small with ease because it all just runs together, it makes it even worse. So this forces me to write, I hate it. Micron.
Nice. Just starting my bad handwriting. That's not very good. My girls, they don't teach cursive in school anymore, and they taught themselves, and they have wonderful handwriting. I don't know, like they just taught themselves. Which is wild, that they don't teach cursive anymore, but, I mean, everything's, blocks, signatures now, so.
I think my nephew did cash check, and he was like,
Did you get some red pen on that?
I don't know what to write, I was like, you signed your name.
Yeah.
We need to,
Here, a little bit of piece up.
How are you supposed to?
Set up some.
yeah, legal signatures now are blocked. They used to have to be in cursive. It's
Maybe
fine.
back in my day.
I thought you.
Said you
We
were
did
born.
there if we need
I'm
to.
not old.
That's why I don't know where I started.
No, I like it.
We used to write cursive.
What, is there a?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
No.
Alright. Here these the other language.
If they check from the other side.
I wanna do
That's
work
cool.
very well.
Alright, we'll do this, chapter quiz real quick, and then we'll go over the answers. Take about 5 minutes or so. Go over the answers, we're gonna get to our skills, we will, wrap it up then. So, everybody got a pen? gonna steal yours, Jeff, and I'll rate it, and then we'll, read it.
I'm not confident in my answers.
That's all right, I am. But I had an answer key, so. All right, well, cause I wanna read the questions, be thorough. All right, y'all good? All right, cool. All right, we're gonna go over this and just, shout it out. All right, life safety rope should be used to,
Rescue victims.
that's correct. Natural fiber ropes are,
Permitted to be used by utility applications.
yep. Which type of rope construction is used for life safety ropes? Yeah, that's correct. Kernman, C. What should be done if the inspection reveals a rope has shards of glass or other important objects in it?
Remove the rope service and have it destroyed.
I don't like that.
Yeah, destroyed seemed a little harsh.
It needed to be like a remove the debris, re-inspect the road, not just destroy it, cause
Best,
it's,
you gotta find the best answer.
Automatically destroy it.
Destroyed
it's over.
It's like
it.
freaking
Immediately.
Terminator, just destroy this thing. Off with the rope. What's that?
I thought it seemed harsh as well.
So-
Yeah,
Hey, I didn't write this. Alright, what should be done in order to ensure the ropes remain in good condition?
Keep them away from rust.
Nice. What type of webbing is commonly used for rescue operations?
See tubular.
Correct. Which part of the rope is used to tie a knot?
B.
That's correct. A link is a bend in the knot that's created by bending the rope back on itself and keeping the sides parallel.
C. Height.
Was it 8? That is correct, sorry. 9, which knot is used to provide extra level of protection?
Overhand seat.
Overhand safety knot. And 10, a link knot is primarily used to attach a rope to an object such as a bike ladder or hoist.
Fish.
Toe fish. Alright, cool. Write your scores. Write your scores at the top, and I'll record it in our training log. And then, very well. Good job.
All those wrong.
Take it. Thank you all. We'll get, we've got 3 different skills to go over, and then, we're gonna be done. Good job. A+. Alright, very good. Alright, so our 3 different skills, 3 different skills sheet, you're gonna actually have a couple extras. First skill will be a water knot with a safety, and then you're gonna do an overhand safety, which will be completed when you do your overhand, or do your water knot with a safety. And then your figure 8 on a bike with a safety. So for the water knots, everyone can just use the tubular webbing I have out, and then when it comes to the figure 8s, you use your, rope.
You want us to get our PPE?
Nah. That
I
wasn't
mean,
harsh.
it's,
Probably recommended.
Some high pro.
so, yeah, I'm sorry, you do need, your leather gloves and eye protection for this. You never know if the knot's gonna, that's when they need to be destroyed, it's when the knot's gonna match it.
Destroy them.
Destroy them, well,
They poke you in the eye, they're gone.
You want me to grab yours to your instructor and make sure you have the same level of protection?
I will come grab mine, I've got mine in my little bag. objective, student, given proper rope, which currently you do, you have your tubular webbing, shall demonstrate tying a water knot over hand safety and a figure eight on a bite within the designated times. Student will select the type of rope they need, which you have. Because of the various sequential steps in order to accomplish the finishing knot, we will evaluate the finished product and accurateness of your knot. Completed knot should be identical to the illustrated from the reference, and I'll bring that back up. And then minimum PPE. So we all have our leather gloves and eye pro. So now you are officially able to touch the rope. All right, let's do a water knot with a safety.
We'll have to take our gloves off this
Yeah.
So typically when you use your gloves, it is going to be whenever the rope is moving. So when you do like a static system safety check, is when you're going to be using your gloves, or if you're on your rope. If it does seem hard, if you can't do it with your gloves, because webbing is kind of hard to do that with your dexterity, you can take those off, and then just whenever you dress it, put your gloves back on. Can I do it with my teeth?
Much time we have.
So you, there's actually, I believe it is 2 minutes, especially for your skills portion. Nice. The actual skills test, yeah, that's fine. Looks good, looks good. Can't see, I got my glasses all scratched.
This isn't the test, this is just.
I mean, it's a skills portion, but whenever you take the state test,
Hell yeah.
you will have, and they've changed it in the awareness and hops, but you'll just finish them all together, and you have like a total of 12 minutes to get 5 knots. Like it's not. I love it. Might be the best water knot I've ever seen. Not really sure.
Did you not see mine?
No, I got scratches on my glasses. Just 2 turns. You're good to go. Nice. Yep, that's it.
Good work.
Really good. Good job.
All right, so the next one is gonna be an overhand safety. You demonstrated it with that, but just out of thoroughness, we're gonna use the rope for an overhand safety real quick. So we wanna tie an overhand safety, then pass it on to the next person. Hey, yeah, you got it.
Good job.
Good practice. Very good.
Do you think that's going to work with one hand from a portion?
Probably.
Excellent. Excellent. Close enough. All right. He's gonna kill me overnight. All right, we're gonna do a figure eight on a bite with a safety. So this is what you're gonna use times for belay, or if you're gonna attach Stokes basket.
Yeah, there.
Yeah. There's enough there. it's addressed. So one thing I talked about earlier was like you can count them. So you can calculate 1, 2, 3, 4. You're done. 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, Curry, that was good. So always remember, like just like you did, you addressed it perfectly. Nice job, Curry. Yep. But is that a quadruple barrel knot?
Not a safety knot.
That is good. Nice job.
It's spent some time on the rescue.
Lots of barrel knot practice.
I'm gonna just sit over here and type row 6. You guys keep doing what you're doing. So moving on to the next one, since you've already got in your hand, and then everyone else has done correct. Kaylee's finishing it up. Our next skill will be, we're gonna do a figure 8, so it's even easier. We're gonna do a figure 8, and we're gonna do a clove hitch around an object, and we can just use the chair back right here. That's gonna work just fine for that. And then a figure 8 follow through, and you're gonna use your chair back for that as well. So go ahead and do a figure 8. You are given the proper rope.
What was the next one?
So just do a clove hitch, or you can do a figure 8 follow through. So it's up to you.
Follow through or just figure it?
Figure 8 follow through. So you do a figure 8 first, and then the other skill is a figure 8 follow through. So do a figure 8, and then run it around an object, and then follow it right back through your figure 8. So you're gonna give yourself quite a bit of rope. You're gonna tie a figure 8 in that rope, and then go through an object, and then come back with your running end. Yep.
And then we're gonna do the clove hitch.
When you do your state testing, you will have 2 minutes to do each one of these. But this is a good practice to get through these as well. Because so far all we've done is a lot of PowerPoint. Yep. So, yeah, so that's a figure 8 follow through. Nice. calf hitches or clove hitch at the end, and then you're secured. Nice. And you're waiting on your legal bit last one.
Right. Or seeing right into
Nice. Alright, so that was, your figure eight, and then a clove hitch around an object, and then a figure eight follow through. You all did all of that, and I saw the safeties on your figure eight follow throughs as well. And each one of those skills, 2 minutes to complete, you guys got it done in less than 2 minutes, so good job. And then whenever you're doing your state testing, just make sure that you, talk about when you would use each knot. What would be a practical application. Alright, our last skill, and then we'll get out of here of today, it's gonna be inspecting, cleaning, and storing the rope. So, student, given a fire service rope, which you guys already have that, shall demonstrate the technique of inspecting, cleaning, and storing the rope in the approved fashion for your department. And everything else is the same. So, items to check off this list. You want to examine the entire surface for cuts, abrasions, stains, chemical damage, odor, and fraying. Examine the inner component by feeling for lumps and depressions or soft spots. Verbally explain that he or she would tag it or remove it from service if damaged rope, and records the rope in the rope log. Verbally explain how rope is to be washed using water and mild detergent per manufacturer's recommendations, and thoroughly rinsing. States that after cleaning the rope, they would hang it up to dry, allow it to dry before you put it back away, perform additional inspection after drying, and then properly stores the rope using a coil method or a bag method. We don't usually do a coil, we do on like the water rescue, but pretty much just a rope bag. So feel around everything we talked about earlier with the current mantle. You're gonna kind of pull it apart too and give it some pressure so that you check and make sure that the core is intact and is fine for our operations. Looking for cuts, abrasions, dirt, anything like that. So everyone can pretty much grab a piece of rope and do a section. Okay. Good.
Although there's glass embedded in it.
Just section tastes funny.
Destroy it.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Smell or taste odd, usually you gotta destroy it. Just
Immediately.
immediately destroy it in 6-inch pieces so no one ever uses it for anything else. Alright. Everything looked good, it's all clean from everything. We bag it, there's no need to clean this one because it just came out of the bag, so. we would probably go ahead and, put it in the rep log that we inspected it, and it is ready to continue to be in service. So, that's all the skills for chapter 7. When you go to do your rope awareness or operations skills, they're gonna be all those chapters, they're gonna pick and choose which ones. Ropes and knots will absolutely be on there. You'll absolutely have to do your overhand, your figure eight, your flow fish, those knots. Bowling has pretty much been taken out of it, so, wouldn't hurt to understand that one too. And then your water knot. But, everybody passed your test and your skills, it all looked good, all the information makes sense. Okay, very good. Any questions about it? Cool. I think you guys are ready to take and pass your state tests. I appreciate it, and you all can go back and do the rest of your cool fire department things for the day. So that's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.